So YouTube will be in a second, and the moment it opens, we'll close again. We're streaming live currently as it is. It's an absolute glorious evening and lovely to see you again.
Thank you very much. Lovely to see you too.
Brilliant. Okay, so we're live on YouTube, and welcome to everybody. We are now live with myself, Sukhi Wahiwala, your host this evening on the Empower Hours show. Just to let you know, in this particular series of the YouTube series and offline series, it is sponsored by Salam Radio, here based in Peterborough. And this is a live show, but during lockdown period, we've taken it onto YouTube directly. And as soon as it goes back to normal, we'll be back in the studio with all of our guests, with God's gratitude, I'm sure. So this evening, we are not going to let you down. This is a weekly installment of the Empower Hours show with myself, your host, Sukhi Wahiwala, an established entrepreneur and a Forbes recognized individual. This evening, we have one of our, I would say, one of my internal personal greats and idols that I wanted to bring to this show for quite some time, but due to her very, very interesting and you should say scheduled time plan, it's taken us this long to get her on board. So we are today going to be speaking to, if you can just see her there, it's Dr. Marilyn Glenville. Now, for the people who don't know this coveted individual, may I just share a little bit about her before I introduce her straight in. She is a best-selling author, no, not once, not twice, 16 times. 16 times her body of work has been translated into 20 different languages globally. She has a Harley Street practice, and she is without a doubt one of the UK's leading women's health specialists, but in a specific, what we call the naturopathy, health through eating the right foods. Her background is a PhD in biosciences. Before I go any further, because I think I'm going to stop there, I've got so much I can tell you about her, talking about her fertility, her conversations around migraine, but we're going to get straight in with her. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Marilyn, please welcome to the show.
Thank you, Sukhi. Lovely to be able to spend this time with you and have this hour together. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Honestly, it's our pleasure. The Inspired Tribe is such a lively, but an emotionally awake and a conscious crowd that follow us around the world. So I'm welcoming everybody from around the globe. So, Marilyn, I am, if you're okay with me calling you Marilyn, because obviously I know you're very much more senior than myself. So I just thought I'd share that on a personal level. Marilyn, we have a very clear structure to these shows. So initially, what I'd like to talk about is a little bit about who is Marilyn, where did you come from and what was your journey so far?
Yes, so it's been an interesting journey, really. I grew up in London, in Islington, actually, and I passed the 11 plus, which was wonderful, and ended up going to grammar school. So came from a poorish family, but it gave me the opportunity. And I have to say nowadays that I think education can transform your life, which I feel is what that opportunity did for me. And it wasn't really in the family. My mother had to leave school at 14, as it was in those days, because the children had to go out and earn money to bring back into the family. So it wasn't there within the family, but to be able to have that opportunity, and I think that's what's really triggered this passion for learning, which has stayed with me all through these years and through a PhD, and still feel it now. So it's something that's really stayed with me and triggered, I think, at a fairly early age.
That the whole of that conversation, the concept of keeping the academic awake within self, that is so hard. But let me share something else, and so inspiring as well. One thing I would like to ask you a question, because in that period of time, and I'm sure we were talking about the 60s, for a young lady to be studying through the 60s, and I would say, turning from the turn of post-war 50s into 60s, which is quite a transition. Was it really that easy? Was it just simple to get into studies? And was anybody else in your family into the academic culture as well?
No, nobody. And I was actually the first one to go to university from my family. So it was very different. My family were really supportive. Their feeling was, well, if you've got a passion, do what and follow your heart, and if you enjoy it, carry on. So they were really supportive, and those days you got grants, so you were able to, even if you came from a poorer background,
Mhm.
to be able to take hold of that opportunity and run with it, which I think was so wonderful when I look back now, because we would have, I think, have been a bit stifled financially, but it has opened up for me a different world completely, and I'm really grateful for that. Definitely, I
Yeah.
am.
I'm not sure whether the audience themselves can feel that gratitude from within you, because it's really, really evident. And I've had the good fortune of spending some time with you personally. It is just, it's wonderful to see such warmth and gratitude that comes out of your heart. So are you sort of, whereabout, you're from Islington? Are you one of many siblings, or?
I've got a younger sister, she's 4 years younger, and she's retired now. Had a lovely family life, really loving mother and father. And I've got 3 children myself now and 2 grandchildren, which is lovely. So
Wow. Wow.
family expands and changes, and different rhythms move on. So that's lovely.
What an amazing blessing, in a real logical way of brain and heart and soul. What a great blessing there to have such a foresight in the next generations as well. Now, a little Dicky bird told me, Marilyn, that actually it's rubbed off within the family as well, because obviously you brought your family up with the
Yeah.
philosophy and the principles of your food is your medicine. Yeah. And
Yes.
so tell me a little bit about your children, sorry, and the siblings amongst themselves.
Yes, I have a middle son called Len, who has also followed this passion. We're all into healthy eating, but he's taken it a step further and taken on now 5 health food shops. They're called Best Health Food Shops. They're all at the moment in Southeast region, Tunbridge Wells, Shoreham, Worthing, those sort of places. So he's really taken on that passion to be able to offer this. 5, he's got
5 shops.
5.
So a little small enterprise, huh?
Yes, him and his girlfriend Mel, and they really have taken it to being able to stock things that people find hard to get if they're on special diets, and also plastic free, or trying to go that way,
Yeah.
with refillable things at the end of the store. So it's beautiful, and I'm privileged to be able to do talks for their health food shops in the regions that they're in. So it's a lovely family connection.
That's so inspiring, that it's actually that you not only live and walk the talk yourself, but your actual offspring and your children are taking it to the next generation. I'm sure that's going to filter into your grandchildren and then your great grandchildren with God's gratitude as well. What a lovely place. So your son's chain of stores is only around the south of London environment, but what was it called again? The Best
Health Food Shop.
Health is okay. So we'll touch on that in another topic. By the way, in case anybody's thinking, I am going to have Marilyn back, and I've already secured that conversation, so we're in a good one there. So Marilyn, just tell me a little bit about yourself, if you don't mind. I mean, we did talk a little. We're talking a moment about the sort of constraints that one could have from not being the norm through the 60s, the early 60s, to be educated as a female member of society. It was a norm, a pre-war, post-war, for the young ladies to be removed from education between the 12 and 14 years old, that sort of time frame. So what sort of effect did that have between yourself and mum? Because I'm sure your mum must have gone through that same sort of process.
Yes, but I think she felt that because I'd got the opportunity because I passed the 11 plus and to go to grammar school, then to take that opportunity. They just felt, and always felt, just do the best you can. If you're happy to do that, then carry on. So they were very supportive, even though academic and that scholarly side wasn't part of their life. It was still something that they felt, if you've got the opportunity and the doors open, then walk through it and take it. And I've been really fortunate. I met my husband when I was 15, while I was still at school doing GCSEs, as they were
wow.
then. And he didn't go to university, but I then spent the next 9 years after leaving school at 18 studying. And he was really supportive as well, in that sense of a woman carrying on and taking this education as far as possible. So that support, I've had family, and he's my husband, to be able to do that made a difference, to have that freedom to be able to do something with a passion that I had, but people left the doors open for me to take that step through and take that opportunity, which was wonderful. And I'm very grateful for that.
Truly amazing, because that's the symbiotic relationship that we talk about quite often within the Inspired Tribe, where in essence, you were following the academic facilitation, as you said, the 9 years of when you were studying, and that cost money. And obviously to be, I suppose, self-sustaining, your husband took that journey with you as well through love and, you know, in the symbiotic relationship. And even today, I hear that he's also a part of your business today, isn't he?
Yes, he runs I'm very much a clinician. That's my passion, to be with people and help them clinically. And he runs the business side in terms of making sure, you know, a talk's been arranged and that sort of thing. So he's taken that weight off me to look after that side. And that's been really lovely. So, and I've also, under his banner, formulated a range of food supplements, but he's taken that away to run with that, although I've done the formulation. So that's been really lovely to have this together.
Possibly just touch, what's the name of that food supplement so we can all help?
It's called Natural Health Practice, and it's under naturalhealthpractice.com.
How can people get that product anyway?
Yeah, so they can get it in their local health food shops, but if they go to naturalhealthpractice.com, then they'll see all the formulations that I've put together that are really, even I say it myself, are really good combinations, because they're ones I wanted in the clinic, but I couldn't find. So that was really the impetus to put these wonderful natural combinations together.
So you can have your own range, in essence, to be able to deliver the highest quality of service, in essence, and culinary for your clients. Yeah. So we'll touch a bit about that in a moment, if that's okay, with reference to the brand of, you know, how people engage that towards the end. But I'm also just going to give a little pre-frame, if I may. You have spoken internationally, and you are without a doubt the go-to person when it comes to naturopathy as well. In the commercial 16 books is not an easy journey. To undertake such a labor of love, may I ask you a question personally? I mean, it's the kind of thing we're open and honest here on this particular show. The Empower Hour show has that methodology for people. You've touched base with things as from migraine management all the way through, but how to fertility and to manage things such as how individuals can have weight loss. We'll talk about that in the second half of this particular interview, if you don't mind, because I think it'll be perfect for the COVID period to be able to talking about that. But what was the reason how you managed to what really got you into biomedicines and naturopathy? Really, was it a personal journey? Did something happen to yourself, or was it something that you decided, I have interest in this?
Yes, it was something that happened to me at a very young age, and even into my teens. I suffered from excruciating migraines, so bad. The pain was so awful that you felt that you'd rather hit your head on the wall, because it might be a better pain than what you're experiencing.
My own mother, late mother, also suffered from migraines about 20 years ago, very, very badly, decapitated, literally. She felt like her head was coming off, and my sister also, and my brother as well. So yeah, fully understand that.
And then affects chunks of your life, because I was losing like 3 days at a time, sleeping in a darkened room, terrible nausea. So it was something that was affecting my quality of life, which really I felt was so debilitating. And yet, been to the migraine hospital, all the drugs that they'd given me, but still wasn't doing enough that I know that I could predict that it wouldn't be happening again.
So with being, I mean, I can really understand, and I'm sure our Inspired Tribe understand, when you're debilitated, in essence, 3 days away from your life, it must have felt, besides the fact of it being so painful, but would it have felt maybe as though you're wasting your precious life, because you're a very switched on, active, do now person?
And it was, well, I've lost those 3 days and I can't get those back. And yet I've spent them in terrible pain, in bed, out of control, in the sense that I couldn't do anything myself to make a difference. And that was what felt, worse, that there wasn't any action that I could take. apart from wait until it goes and just lie in that darkened room, there wasn't anything I could take action to make a difference. And that I felt was really also quite debilitating as well. So very uncomfortable.
Wow. So the question I ask yourself is that, what happened? How did you manage to get over that? Because you've spoken about this as well. So what happened? How did you manage to get over this? You know, the empowerment hours to show people that this is real and we can all, you know, conquer our fears and conquer our challenges in life. So how did you manage, please, Marilyn?
Well, I went to see an acupuncturist. I'd never seen anybody outside the allopathic medical sphere at all ever, and went to see an acupuncturist, and they said, had I thought about removing some foods from my diet? And with migraines, we talk about the 5 C's: cheese, chocolate, claret, which includes red wine, coffee, and citrus fruits. And I thought, I've never made a connection between what I eat and my health in any way whatsoever. And I thought, well, actually, at this point, I've got nothing to lose. There's no downside here. And I took them out, and the 2 triggers for me were cheese and chocolate.
Amazing. So I'm just going to get this clear a second. Hang on. Our listeners today, they need to understand what you just shared there again. You said that what you never made the connection between what you're eating and ingesting resulting in your actual health, in essence.
Yes.
That is such a common thought.
And that was the light bulb moment for me, that how powerful our nutrition, what we're eating every day, can impact on our health if it can cause that severe pain, that the drugs, okay, were helping a bit, but didn't really touch it. And that was a light bulb moment that thought, my goodness, what else can make a difference just by changing somebody's diet?
So basically, it's you kind of fell on it, but also it turned your light bulb on from being managing something to preventing it.
Yes, and being able to do something to take control. I could do something for me.
Wow.
Made a difference. And that was an enormous step of not thinking, well, I've got to keep trying these different drugs to see which one's going to work. I could do something that actually worked, like you said, on prevention, that these weren't going to keep recurring in the future. And basically that gave me my life back, because I wasn't in fear of this happening next week or in 2 weeks' time. That fear went, because I was always fearful of it was lurking around the corner, because it could come anytime.
So this actually ended up being, that makes total sense. And this actually ended up giving you a gift as well of this, you mentioned about the doing your stuff now.
It did, it gave me a gift, because I didn't know when a migraine would come. If I had a task to complete, or an essay or a deadline, I knew how I had to do it while I felt well, like now, because I couldn't be sure, would I feel unwell in 2 days' time and then laid up for 3 days. So that has stayed with me with the deadlines for a book. I would rather do something much earlier than last minute, because that's still in the psyche of you can't wait, because something in that case, maybe it would end up me not being able to do the task.
Wow. You know, this reminds me so much of one of my inspirations and one of my mentors as well, my father, through our generational hand-downs of information, my father and my mother. And my father says, he's drummed into us as a young age. He said that there's an old proverb of India, and it says, do today's work today and don't leave it till tomorrow. And what he had drummed into him from our elders, our ancestral line, was do today's work now and do tomorrow's work today as well. So it's kind of funny. It's very similar.
Yeah, lovely saying, lovely. Yes.
Yeah. And it hasn't, it's helped us considerably. It hasn't done us bad by any means. So just to go back to yourself, if I may, you've been through the adversity of really feeling this problem. And you were mentioning the 4 or the 5 C's again, weren't you? Yeah. Could I just repeat them again, if you don't mind, for anybody who does suffer from migraine?
So cheese, chocolate, they say claret, but it includes red wine, coffee, and citrus fruits predominantly oranges. Now, it
Wow.
may not be that all of those are a trigger.
Mhm.
For me, it was just cheese and chocolate, but it means you've got to do a bit of an experimentation, because
Right.
you have to take them all out and then start adding them back to find it. And the tricky bit with food is the cause and effect. So if somebody's got an allergy, like a peanut allergy, it's very quick. It can risk an anaphylactic shock. The cause and effect is so close together that it becomes obvious.
Okay,
With
got
most
it.
of the nutrition side, it's much longer to see that effect. And with migraines, it can be 36 to 40 hours before you see the effect of that cheese or chocolate that I'd eaten 36 hours before. So there is a time lag, and that makes it a bit trickier.
That has just mind blown me. That makes such logical sense. That if I'm eating, so for example, if you have a peanut allergy, as you said, the cause and effect is so close together. You eat the peanut, within minutes, if not seconds, you will have an effect of it. But then on the other side, you'll have a migraine. And sometimes if you're suffering from migraine, that means that you, in essence, am I correct in saying this, Marilyn, that you'd have to kind of backtrack maybe even 48 hours to see what you've been eating? Have you managed any of these 5 C's or 4 C's during that time frame? And at which case then you could actually try to remove them as well and then work out backwards. Am I right?
Yeah, and that's exactly what people could do, even those listening, is actually keep a simple food diary, or do it like you said, if they don't want to do it every day, once they get a migraine, go back retrospectively and try and remember what happened on those days. Other things might cause it, like stress or not drinking enough water, but it becomes obvious when there's a definite pattern.
This is
Primary
beautiful.
certain foods are really strong as triggers.
This is an absolute gem of a gift that you've given every one of our listeners today, because what's happening here is we use this philosophy within the mindset side of brains, so that when you're feeling certain ways, just backtrack 48 hours and see what's gone on. That could have triggered the feeling, or actually, some kind of a turmoil. And that's so wonderful. Connecting it to food has been an absolute gem of a bit of information. Thank you for that. So you're seeing, if I can just move, if you don't mind, just into another vein here, because I'm not joking, you're multifaceted. It's such a blessing to have you on this show with us.
Yeah.
So the question to yourself is that you're also seen as the UK's leading female health specialist. Please help us understand a bit of that. And there's also a book that you've written specifically. It was the Women's Health Bible.
Yes, the Natural Health Bible for Women. So, and that really covers, women often use it as a reference book because it covers a lot of different problems we have, like cystitis, anything going on with the cycle, fertility, the menopause. It goes right across. And that's my passion. Yes, in the clinic, we do see men and we look after children, but we have, over the years, have built up this passion around women's health and hormones, and how we can help women at the different stages in their life to overcome certain things, either instead of a medical approach. Say for some women, they can't take, or they don't want to take HRT at the menopause. How do they go through this natural stage easily and comfortably? There may be some couples going through fertility treatment and going through IVF, and yet they can put the nutrition side alongside it to give that IVF a better chance of success. So we can mix either nutrition with a medical approach, or it might be instead of, where somebody might have hit a brick wall and they actually don't know now where to go, but we're trying to find an underlying cause that maybe has not been looked at medically.
Wow. Now, it's kind of like a hybrid model as well as being a pure model on both ends, just working in homeopathy and the health side of things as well. Can I just ask a question just for our audience, because we do have a good mix of males and females who watch our show. And I'm sure the younger young ladies don't specifically understand what menopause actually is. Just a minute or so, just to explain what menopause actually is, so they can actually see the gravity of what you're trying to help people with.
Yeah, so around the age of 51, which is the rough age most of women will go through the menopause, which is where the hormones will lower down and decline. we run out of our store of eggs, as we put it, and we go through this stage, which then can cause a number of debilitating symptoms if they're not looked at, in terms of hot flushes, night sweats, brain fog, just feeling very different because those hormones have dropped away. You're lucky as a man because you don't have this stage. Your hormones stay pretty steady. They might drop a little bit through your life, but you could also father children in your 70s or 80s. But for women, there comes a stage where we end up into a different third of our life at that point, and we can live 30 to 50 years past the menopause. And it's, as women, how do we live that well with quantity and quality of life? So it's a very definite stage for women, which is not there for men.
Thank you for covering that, because it's very important, because I can say on a personal level that I have experience of understanding that, but I also know that there was a time in my life when I didn't understand any of that, the menopause, and I couldn't even it wouldn't even interest an individual, a male, to find out what it was about unless they're in a relationship. So thank you very much for that. So is there anything that, I know we may have some of our Inspired Tribe members who are going through this, or going through any of the migraine scenario, which book would you suggest is one of your books that they could actually to look up and then maybe even purchase and see?
I think for the general health across, particularly for women's health across all the ranges and stages, I'd go for the Natural Health Bible for Women, because it covers everything. And my other books are more of a particular focus around a condition like IBS or dementia or dieting, fertility, where it delves into an area in much more depth, because that's that person's problem and they want to look at it in a way that gives them more information.
Wow. So I know we haven't got enough time to cover all of those things, but I will be having you back on one of these shows. And if anybody else is please watching and you're watching us live, please do share this particular live Empower Hour show with all of your family and friends, and do comment and leave us some messages underneath. And if you've got any questions, I'll do my best to try and see if we can get them answered while we're in the show, but also put them in there, and I will be seeing it later, and I'll push it forward to, if I can, to Marilyn. You're okay with that, I'm sure?
Yeah.
And then we can, I can connect you up directly, because we're friends and we're very open with our tribe as well. So a question to yourself, Marilyn. You touched something very lightly there, which was basically things such as diet. Now, diet, you're evidencing this, and I have clients called Rav and a couple of other people who are in that space where they're absolutely proven that what you eat is what you are. Yes.
Yes, and what you become. So really important. Brilliant.
So what you eat is what you become. Is that right? So thank you for the correction. So in that context, during this COVID period, and I know we're going into a slightly different vein here.
Yeah.
I have met, and I'm telling you now, I think you call it the COVID stone, didn't you?
The Corona stone.
The Corona stone. I do apologize. Yeah. So I know we're having a bit of a jovial conversation around it, but I do apologize, and I'm just making very clear for people who are watching this that the COVID-19 epidemic or pandemic is genuinely a very serious environment, and we're very saddened by all the deaths. And if you've had a family member who's passed by this, please don't misinterpret this as being unsensitive on our behalf. We're very much aware of how serious this truly is, but we're just trying to also give a bit of a jovial finish and a feel, because so we can move forward in life and move on to the next stage. So with reference to the conversation of the Corona stone, the stone being relevant to the 1 stone of weight, is that correct?
Yes, and that's what I think people have found, that their weight has been piling on, their eating habits have gone out the window, and stress and anxiety makes us comfort eat. So in these uncertain times when things aren't normal, we don't know, things are out of our control, there is this feeling of eating differently, comfort eating, and we may not be as mobile, we can't go to the gym. So there has been a complete shift. And for a lot of people, they found that the weight has been piling on. And of course, it's a bit of a risk in terms of the virus. So we want to keep an eye on it and just keep ourselves as healthy as possible.
So just to clarify that, the evidence has proven that the heavy obesity, the fat ratio, what's it called, the body mass index, the higher your obesity, the higher risk you are with the COVID virus as well, right?
Yes, and they think it's up to 40% more likely to die, unfortunately, if you're overweight or obese and you're hospitalized with it. And
Wow.
I've also written a big book called Fat Around the Middle, which
Mhm.
is really interested in this idea of, of what's going on around the middle of the body, which carries higher health risk. But they're worried with the virus that actually having this extra weight sitting around the middle then can compress the lungs, it's changing the
Yeah.
breathing, so it's carrying an extra risk factor than it would do normally. So whatever we can do to shift the weight, and particularly around the middle of our body, is really important at this time.
Wow. I didn't think you could see my middle here, but I think you
No,
actually can, can't you? Naughty, naughty.
I'm a bit psychic. No, I'm not really.
I thought you were going to be nice to me. It was my show. Oh, goodness me. For anybody else who's just joined us, by the way, we're going to continue in a second, but if anybody else has just joined us, you're in for a treat. Please do, when this is over, when we've got our live show, do rewind back to the start of the show and do watch the start. We are with Dr. Marilyn Glenville, who is one of the number one leading health nutritionist in the arena for ladies' health and women's health. So please, please, please do take your time. We've covered a lot of things, and now we're going to carry on with this journey, if it's okay with yourself, Marilyn. And we're going to talk a bit more about the diet side of things, this middle tire, or this middle band, as you put it. Yeah. And so, in context of, I know you're picking on my band, but I'll be nice and polite about it. But let's just suggest that we're talking about this band, and with the COVID heightened risks incorporated as well. So we're sitting at home, okay? So there is a semi-opening of a lockdown. So people as individuals are physically attempting to go to work, to try and communicate, or in some cases where they can work at home, they're stopped at the desk. Only last week, I had back problems myself because I've spent so many hours sitting at the computer. Now, that's something that's not a part of my life usually. I run a group of companies, but I seldom sit at a PC or a Mac talking to a screen like we are now. So how and what can a person do in this COVID period to manage that central weight, this corona stone? And one other question I'm going to also ask you to touch on, because I'm going to let you flow in this, is what are the things that they would be craving so people can actually self-identify themselves? Because I know that's a really core part of your life. You want people to be self-empowered.
I do.
To control and maintain themselves. So what would they be getting the urges to eat? And then we'll go and talk about what they can do. So what food types are they urging themselves possibly? Thank you.
Oftentimes it was something that would give somebody a quick fix, like a biscuit or a chocolate bar and a cup of tea, a cup of coffee or an energy drink, where it's basically going to hit the bloodstream fairly quickly to lift somebody up when they may be feeling their energy is dropping or they're feeling low generally. So it does act as a quick fix. The difficulty is the higher it shoots up, the lower it drops after, and then the tendency is to need another quick fix to keep it going. And it's interesting when we talk about stress, and of course there's stress outside of us in different ways, with family, finances, what's going on at the moment in the whole of the world. But sometimes that stress response can be triggered by our pattern of eating when our blood sugar drops low, and we release the same stress hormones, adrenaline and cortisol, as we do when that stress is coming from outside. So sometimes our pattern of eating can make us feel more stressed and anxious than we should be, and is triggering more food cravings, so actually leaving us in quite a negative, vicious cycle.
Amazing. So apologies for stopping you there, but I just want to ask a question. So the types of foods, for example, you said the quick fix getting you a high immediately, they crash equally hard. Is that right?
Yes. And then you're going to need another quick fix.
Biscuits, sugars, cakes, that kind of thing. But what about things like carbs, or should I say uncomplex, simple carbs?
Yeah. So it's the refined carbs that are, so in a biscuit, you'd have white flour and you'd have sugar. So you've got a double hit there. So when it's a refined carbohydrate like white rice, white flour, white bread, the hit is quick because there's no fiber in that food to slow this down. So what is happening, the blood sugar goes up really quickly, and then the pancreas has to respond by pumping out more insulin. And then we're going to crash down. And so over time, there could be a risk of something like type 2 diabetes. So there are health risks living on this roller coaster, as well as feeling exhausted, mood swings that are up and down, energy up and down, and of course, blood sugar up and down as well. So it's not a roller coaster that you want to be on for your health.
But you could accidentally find yourself on it, right?
Yes, you could. And you're left then creating this vicious cycle because it's making you feel more stressed and anxious. And so you go for more of the comfort foods, which leaves you more stressed and anxious. Or it may be alcohol. Some people will have different things they'll go for. It may just be quantity of food, like you're trying to fill a void. And I think, you know, what is really important for what we both do is this really strong connection between the mind and the body. And even when we think what we're changing physically can change the neurotransmitters in our brain in order to lift depression, with decisions are easier, we're coping better, and then we tend to eat better, and then we're going into a positive spiral instead of negative. But it is this strong mind and body connection that really is important.
So that is the evidence that you're sharing, which we both subscribe to, is this mind, body, and soul, but also the what you eat is what you become.
And how you think, how you become physically in terms of your health, and how you think mentally in terms of decision, coping, moods, memory, concentration, really makes a difference in terms of that connection and what's going on in the brain as well as what's going on in the body.
Wonderful. So just a question, the reason why I'm asking the carbs, because I've got a number of my clients who are saying that they're leaning towards these uncomplex carbs, and as you said, the refined carbs. So if you're listening today, if the Inspired Tribe or anybody who's listening to this particular video of the Empower Show with myself, Sukhi Wahiwala, your host, and also Dr. Marilyn Glenville, if you're finding yourself in the situation where you're either maybe eating more, drinking more, feeling the urge to have these refined carbs, as what Marilyn was just sharing a second ago, the first thing that we want you to do is to actually recognize that is the possible state you're in. So Marilyn, now what would one do?
I think it all stems from how you start the day. And that's what I felt is in this lockdown situation. And even though it might be easing, we still need a routine. We still need a plan of getting up and going to bed rather than thinking of lying in till midday and then watching box sets through the night. It is still having that routine and planned meal times. And how we start the morning in terms of the breakfast or that choice first thing can really set the day up for success or fail. So if somebody starts off with a really sugary breakfast and a couple of espressos, up they're going to shoot and they're going to come crashing down. So it's almost setting somebody up to fail depending on the choices right at the beginning of the day.
So if somebody was to pick and kind of stop this cycle, what were the first steps for them to look at, the start of the day, and then what would they eat? What should they eat?
Yes, and I'd say a major step, if some people like to do things all in one go, and that's their personality. It's like some people stop smoking completely, others have to cut it down. So it depends on the personality, but I've often found in the clinic that small steps are much easier. Somebody thinks, I can do this. They do the small steps and they think, oh, I'm feeling a bit better, I can do another step, rather than it being overwhelming.
That's so true.
Yes. Yeah, and I think the small steps, even though the goal is big, it's being able to accomplish those small steps. So my big thing is, first of all, take out the added sugar, the refined sugar that's in a lot of cakes and biscuits.
Everything.
Yes, you're right, and that's the problem. It is in everything. It's even in the savoury foods like tomato ketchup, baked beans, tomato sauces. It's really in too many foods that we could then end up with a cumulative effect. But there are now choices where on that shelf in the shop there will be another choice where it doesn't have that added sugar, but it does mean becoming a bit of a label reader for a little while. And just to give you an example, people think a fruit yogurt, really healthy. Yogurt's got all the beneficial bacteria. If you do a fruit yogurt, it can have 8 teaspoons of added sugar along with the fruit.
Hang on.
Yes.
Sorry, I'm going to have to stop you there. Right. A healthy yogurt.
Yeah, a fruit yogurt.
With lovely fruit, which has got fructose and other things that's naturally in there, but very good for you with vitamin C, etc. Go again.
They can then add in that yogurt 8 teaspoons of added sugar.
Oh my goodness.
And yet you'd perceive it because it's a yogurt, beneficial bacteria. This is a healthy food.
Yeah.
And in that situation, somebody's better off buying a plain live yogurt, organic if possible. Put the berries in yourself. Flaked almonds, you know what's going in that yogurt. Otherwise, it's very deceptive. Very deceptive.
Keeping it kind of like, in essence, the first actions you're saying is to drop refined sugars. That means added sugars. I mean, don't sprinkle sugar. Don't eat excessive cakes. Got refined sugar as well as the refined flours. But then you're also saying, read the label and try to simplify what you're eating by adding the stuff. Is in essence compiling the food yourself, which means you know what you put in. Is that right?
Yes. And yet nowadays you could still buy a lovely pasta sauce that doesn't have sugar in, but you're going to have to read the label because many of these savoury foods, like you said, it could be in everything. So you may just have to read, and you'll just get used to the different brands once you've done it for a week or so and know the ones. Otherwise, you're adding up to quite a combination of sugar a day, and some of the research suggests we can get up to 18 or more teaspoons of sugar from the food, even if you don't put it in your tea or coffee.
Don't tell me that's a day.
Per day.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
Yeah.
You've got to do. Do you know, I'll be honest, I'm actually very sensitive with sugar. I am very, very conscious of sugar. And actually, would you believe in this COVID period and in our lockdown period, with God's gratitude to our life and health, I've actually lost weight because I think I've kept off sugar. I mean, I may have maybe one sugary item a day, purely because my second eldest daughter has this urge to create cakes and stuff. So, you know, she's trying to replace them. So would you suggest that when you're making cakes yourself, that you would replace the sugar with something? I mean, I'll explain what I'm trying to get to here. Is that one of her challenges, if I may ask Marilyn, is that the sugar is incorporated in the actual written recipe.
Yes.
And then there's videos that tell you if you don't add the sugar in, obviously, yes, if you don't add the sugar in, then it doesn't bind or it doesn't fluff up or something. I believe that not to be fully true. So what do you think is a good substitute for those sugars?
I'll have to send your daughter. I've written a book called Natural Alternatives to Sugar, and it's got the recipes in there, how you make the cakes without them.
So you must give me that link, and I will put it below. All the books that we've given, and I would like, if it's okay, to get all of your books, because see how the value that we've had. We've only been speaking for best part of 35, 40 minutes.
Yeah.
And that time that we've achieved, we've already covered nearly 9 of your titles. So what I would like to do, if you don't mind, Marilyn, is to give us each one of those books, please, and the title. And when this video comes off live, I will put them all into the lower section as well. And we'll,
I'd love to give your daughter one as a gift so she can make just cakes.
Oh my goodness, it will be heaven for me, because I have a limit to what I can eat. She made some beautiful, beautiful fairy cakes just last night as well. And she has just got this warm heart of wanting to give to everybody.
Yeah.
So I just wanted her, you know, when she makes things and I'm involved, and I'll say to her, can you just reduce the sugar? Because I have such a sensitivity towards sugar. Now, is it something that she quoted that I'm going to ask her this question, if you don't mind? Do you find that people, once you start to cut the sugar out of your life, you taste it as the second it goes in, and then vice versa, you get kind of immune to it?
Yeah, and you're completely right. And I've seen that in the clinic where people have taken out the sugar and they felt so much better in themselves. And then they've been at a wedding or a birthday party, taken a slice of it, and then just thought, I can't eat this. It's just too sweet.
Awful.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's me.
It changes your
Love it.
taste buds.
Yeah, love it. So thank you. That's an inspiring thought to take out, just in case I was going a bit off.
Yeah.
Very inspiring to hear that. So just a sec, if I can move forward a little bit from this. This is so invaluable. Thank you very much for sharing this conversation. So what else could somebody do? We've got the sugar, we've got the refined sugars, we've got the binging on these sort of foods and stuff. But then the question arises that what could one replace them with?
Yeah, so actually you want whole grains in there, but it's also important to have the balance with the protein as well. Even if somebody's vegan or vegetarian, when we add protein to a carbohydrate, it actually slows down the release. So if somebody has, for instance, an egg on a piece of rye bread or wholemeal toast, wonderful combination. Or hummus, those sort of things, where if you are vegan or vegetarian, you've got the protein in the beans or the quinoa, but the protein is really important for our health, and it needs to go in. If somebody's got, say, even brown rice there, it just balances it off and slows down that release of the carbohydrate.
Wonderful message there. So if you're into the carbs like breads and stuff that are in there, at least pair it off with the protein, is what you're saying. And just to allow the body to at least get a handle of the carb coming in, the sugars coming in.
Yeah.
Wonderful, thank you. And so in the morning, what would be a good starter breakfast?
Well, the most wonderful breakfast would be something with an egg. I have to say, it is almost a superfood on its own. You've got the protein in the white, in the albumin, and you've got these wonderful omega-3 fatty acids in the yolk. So it's a superfood. I know not everybody likes it, but it's a way of starting the day really good. And then people could have grilled tomatoes or mushrooms, and put it on a slice of wholemeal bread. I understand that sometimes if time is of the essence, that may be a tricky one to do, but there are some really good cereals that don't have this added sugar in there that somebody could use instead. So it's just getting to know the different choices for, you know, breakfast, lunch and dinner, and just having a good routine going, especially in lockdown. Definitely.
Wow. And is it a good replacement to replace the sugar sprinkle with something like coconut sugar? Is that better? I'm just asking the question. And or something like a very good quality high-end pure honey. Would that
you're thinking if you wanted to sprinkle sugar on your cereal?
On the cereal or something, yeah.
Yes, I think it's better if you can get out of the habit of doing that and then get the sweetness. I would say if somebody needs a bit of extra sweetness in a cereal, put some raisins or sultanas in.
Brilliant. My wife would be very happy.
Get the sweetness from the fruit. And that would be, it's a bit like people who sprinkle salt on their food without actually tasting it. It's not the right way to go.
I'm naughty like that, I'm afraid. So yes, but my wife would be very happy because she's got this new mantra. I am not hungry. Sorry, I don't want chocolate. I love raisins. So she has these sort of little conversations. So she's in this space of eating raisins. Sorry, my darling, you don't have to crucify me afterwards, but I told the truth.
And one little tip with that if she's going to do the raisins or somebody's going to have dried fruit, have a handful of nuts or seeds with it, because you've added the protein to that dried fruit and it changes it to something much longer lasting because it doesn't get released as quick in terms of breaking down the sugar. So we're
really, definitely going to have
really simple.
We're going to definitely have another series of conversations. If I get enough comments below, and if you do want to see Dr. Marilyn Glenville back again, then please do give us some quotes down there. And what I might even do is to create a series on YouTube specifically where we partner with Marilyn, and we'll actually design some sessions specifically on kind of foods and have some Q&A live for you. So please get commenting, write the stuff down, and just tell us what's really changed your world here. So going on a little bit, if I may, Marilyn, just due to time, by the way, not because of interest, I'm in awe at the moment with you. You're wonderful. And such a great, lovable delivery as well. So thank you very much for being you. Going forward in the context here, Marilyn, I've got lots of clients. I've got a brilliant gentleman called Ravinder Singh, and he's amazing in this arena as well. And a number of others like Marcus Dogra. They're all individuals who are naturopaths, and they really have a great sense of awareness, and they help in our community as it is. So you would be definitely one of our prized possessions within the community, if that would be really helpful. Going forward, with reference to getting the correlation between what I eat is kind of my medicine in essence. Are there any final tips that you'd like to leave with somebody? What are you doing now if somebody wanted to get hold of you and they want to communicate with you to try and assist them? How could they go about that?
So we're still doing Skype and Zoom consultations when we're not in the Harley Street clinic, and people are very welcome to get in touch on glanvillenutrition.com. They can also email me at reception@glanvillenutrition.com. And I think what's transformed the nutrition world over the last 10 years, although I've been in it a long time now, nearly 30 years, is our ability to test things that medically they don't test for. So we can actually test how stressed somebody is. We can check what's going on in the digestive system that's very different from what's looked at medically. And most of these tests we can still do now because kits are sent home, and either saliva or a stool sample or a finger prick of blood. So we've got the capability to test for things even now when we haven't got the clinic open. And for me, it's all about, if we can track down the underlying cause of a problem, somebody then, like me with the migraines, has a long-term solution rather than just treating the symptoms. And that, for me, transforms somebody's health. And we have the ability now nutritionally to look at things that haven't been looked at medically, when somebody feels they've hit a brick wall and thinks, you know, I know there's nothing medically wrong, but I don't feel right in myself, and something is still not right, and I can't find out what it is yet. And that's where we can look at it in a different way.
So thank you for such a comprehensive answer. The message we're really getting at to everybody is, if you have had medical treatment that has got you to a stage where possibly you've got no further answers, to the extent that people are confused. It could be abdominal pains for ladies, it could be shin splints, it should be migraines, it could be anything like that sort of nature. It could be the fact that you can't lose the midriff to your body and fats, all these elements, or even a sugar addiction or alcohol addiction, that kind of information. If you've gone through the medical arena and you would like to hybridize and actually have an additional, what we classify as a health and naturopath individual to assist you, then this is the way we would suggest you go forward. Communicate, connect directly with Marilyn, or alternatively, you're welcome to get in touch with us, because we're a very tight community of everybody who's following the Sukhi Wahiwala official YouTube channel. Please do contact me directly, and I'll humbly connect, if I have your authority, to connect them directly with yourself, Marilyn, so that they know that this person's coming from our community, if that's okay.
Yes, absolutely. And really important where somebody does feel like they've hit a brick wall and now don't know which direction to go to. And, you know, it's affecting their quality of life. But there's so much we can do now that we couldn't do 10 years ago, because we can actually track down the root cause of a problem, which is really, you know, it transforms everything for somebody.
This has been a truly empowering, inspiring journey during our Empower show today, and this has been wonderful. I've come to a position, thank you, and I've come to a position where I unapologetically will put you on the spot a little bit, because the vision that I've got in my mind, it's the same as we do with every one of our prestigious guests. I can't believe this is episode 51 of our show, so we're very humbled to have you on our 51st episode. My question to yourself is very simply, we call this the legacy moment. The question around this is, it's, Marilyn, you've got a body of work that is continuing, and may you thrive for another 100 years. The question I'm saying to yourself is a very deep question. Do you have anything that you would like to be remembered by? You know, a very quick synopsis and a sound bite that maybe would be what we classify as the epitaph moment? What is the legacy? What picks Marilyn Glenville?
I think that I would really like to be remembered that I've enabled and motivated people to be able to take charge of their life, to take responsibility for their health, to put changes in that may have been a bit of an effort at first, that has enabled them to transform their health and the quality of their life. And that really, for me, would be a wonderful legacy, to have given people those tools and to be able to, and motivation to be able to do that. That would be wonderful.
Wow, that is truly aligned. I think that's everybody who's listened today. It's been jovial, it's been fun. We've had some exciting conversations, and most importantly, there's been facts and data and things that people can actually take away from this show today. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show. Are there any last thoughts that you'd want to share with any of our audience today? You know, I'm thinking, how, if people are wanting to take this first steps of their journey, there's so many of your books, and I'm quite certain you probably won't remember all of the titles, but could you just reel off your body of work?
So I've written quite a few. The Natural Health Bible for Women, Natural Alternatives to Sugar, Natural Alternatives to Dieting, Natural Solutions for the Menopause, Natural Solutions for Polycystic Ovary Syndrome, Natural Solutions for Irritable Bowel Syndrome, and one I think that I've actually been, it's quite recent one, and touched me most because it affected both my father and my husband's mother, and this whole arena of dementia and Alzheimer's. And it is now, for us as women, our biggest killer is Alzheimer's. Wow. And yet, if you look nutritionally at the power that's in that medical literature of what we could do to work on prevention, and going through that and seeing this wonderful information there, my feeling was, I've got to get it out to people. And that really drove me. And this book and being able to share that information on something that, where you feel you've lost a person before they've died, as just, it's tremendous, the research, but it gets hidden in the medical literature because pharmaceutically they're looking for that magic bullet, that one drug, which I don't think they're going to find for dementia and Alzheimer's. It has to be multifactorial to work, and this whole mind and body connection. But that one was really a labor of love because of the connection in the family for both myself and my husband. Yeah.
Wow. Wonderful. And that, so the book that you worked on recently was called, that one was called
Natural Solutions to Dementia and Alzheimer's.
And you also talk about fertility and
yes, I've done a book on fertility, both for male and female fertility. And I do joke with people, because people come back and say to me, well, I've got my energy back, I feel much better in myself. And I joke with fertility because you can't be a little bit pregnant. You're either pregnant or you're not. And it's such a wonderful result, whether it's helping a couple improve their IVF success rate or improve their chances of conceiving naturally. It has brought a new life into the world. And the letters I get of how this has enabled somebody to have a family who never thought they would have, I have to say that really does feel such a success, because it has created a new life for people who thought that was never going to happen. So,
not through their own conceiving, if you understand. Yes.
Yeah. So yes, it has been a blessing to receive, and for people to say, you know, when they read a book, because even when writing them, I'm trying to think of the person that I'm writing for. Same when I'm giving a talk, is trying to feel what do they need in terms of that information that they can put into place that's then going to transform their health and their life. And it can be really powerful.
Wow, I'm not joking here. I wish I could carry on for another hour. I really, really do. But it needs, I'm afraid, I must say, it's been an absolute pleasure from my heart to have you on the show today, the Empower Hour show. And I really, really would like to thank you on behalf of myself and all the audiences listening, and all the beautiful nuggets of information that you've been sharing with us.
Very welcome.
You're welcome. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. And this has been Dr. Marilyn, unbelievable individual who's been out there to try and create the change on the planet. If you've enjoyed today, please do write down, subscribe, and join, and turn the bell icon on. Please do give us a like and a comment on today's journey with Dr. Marilyn Glenville. And I'd like, if I may, if you don't mind, just to remind you, for next week, we will have another budding and amazing celebrity stars that we're bringing in, like we are with Dr. Marilyn Glenville. And I'll see you next week on the Empower Hours show on Tuesday evenings between 7 and 8 o'clock, live on YouTube, until we get back onto the radio station with Salam Radio. Thank you very much for listening. And once again, thank you very much, Marilyn. God bless everybody. Good night.